Hey everybody, Aaron back with you. Today on the podcast, we have Megan Targett. She's the lead singer of the band Vexed and a mental health advocate. It was really cool that I connected with her. Her PR manager actually kind of suggested I interview her or talk with her. And I was really happy I did because she's such a down-to-earth person and just so different than you would think from the music that she makes. It's very heavy. It's very expressive and angry, but at the same time, there is meaning behind it. And it's okay if you don't listen to it or you don't understand it. It's not for everybody, but for some it is. And that's what the most important thing is, that being inclusive of whatever works for one might not work for another. And that's okay. And that's what the center was all about. We always will try something to reach somebody. So if it's heavy metal music, if it's essential oils, if it's weighted blankets, whatever the case is, we want to reach you in some way. So we're going to try. She was such a great guest to have on. She has a lot of insights and a lot of great stories. And I love how close she is to her family. She talks about her granddad a lot. And I love that because it just seems such a good relationship. And I'm so happy that he's such a big supporter of her. And you'll hear that in the podcast. So that's all I got. Let's roll. Cool. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today with me, I have a very special guest that I'm actually very, very, very excited to talk to. Her name is Megan Targett. She's the lead singer of the band Vexed and a mental health advocate. So, Megan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I thought it was, as soon as I got the email, I was like, yes, I need to be a part of this. It's very important.
And it was funny, your PR manager, Natalie, she said, I know somebody that's actually perfect for this kind of a topic. And I'm like,
yeah,
throw it my way. And she goes, it was great because she said, I don't know if you have to screen your guests or anything, or screen, kind of who it is. And I know why she said that, because the music that you make is, I will say, it's for me, of course, because I love that type of music, but it's not for everybody. So
yes.
I don't want to kind of dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Vexed is a really heavy metal band. I mean, it's plain and simple. It's kind of suggests it in the name, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's angry, heavy music. But the message overall is it's take pain and push it into a positive place, if that makes sense.
How important that is, yeah. And I think the one thing that always, with this type of music, with metal music, I mean, I grew up listening to the bands like Kill Switch and In Flames and all of that stuff. And it was like, okay, it speaks to me on a level, and it just somehow kind of forms with it. But when I was listening to your music, you sound like you actually have a message behind a lot of it.
Thank you. Yeah, there is a message behind every single song. But ultimately, like, to sum it up, like I said before, it's everybody suffers and has pain or anger, and we can either let it destroy us, or you can turn it into fuel to better yourself. And I know that's a really hard thing to do, and it's taken me years to kind of get to that moment. But I truly believe that negative emotion and pain and suffering can be just as powerful in a positive way and benefit you as much as happiness and excitement and positive things can. And it's learning how to take all that pain and anger and channel it into your own success and happiness. I think it's really important.
And you're exactly right. It's a fuel that basically has made some of the most creative things for people in the entire world. I mean, I'm not talking just musically, I'm talking anything. Just listening to that type of music can create something in somebody else that just influences them and makes them dive even better into themselves. So I totally agree with you on that statement. So it was cool too, because I always do just a little bit of research on my guests and see kind of like what it is. And I was telling you right before we started this about the Knotfest article that I was directed to. And right in the beginning of the whole article, I saw the coolest, most unique story about your kind of growing up and getting into this. and it was talking about your mom would take you in the car to actually practice. Please tell me about that. That's so great.
Yeah. So obviously we grew up on a council estate, which in the UK is just like loads of houses shoved into one place. You're all living on top of each other basically. And I had 3 other siblings, single mum, and I was the only child that was into metal, and she loves metal as well. So when I told her I wanted to be a vocalist, she was incredibly happy and proud. But yeah, I couldn't just stand in my room and start screaming because police would be called.
Absolutely,
So,
right?
yeah. So I would just be like, right, mum, have you got time to listen to, I don't know, God Hates Us All by Slayer, or I don't know, chucking All Hope Is Gone with Slipknot? And she was like, yep. And we'd get in the car and I'd sit in the back and I'd be like, don't listen, you're not allowed to listen. She's like, I won't. And she turned it off and I'd sit in the back going, psychosocial, over and over again.
Right. It was nice to I keep referring back to this article because it was so cool to say, like, you couldn't really obviously do it in the house because of so confined, and your mom would just be like, believe in that so much and say, let's go for a drive, and you get to release that passion that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so lucky because I know a lot of kids don't have supportive parents, and even though we had it pretty hard growing up, whenever I said to my mom, like, I want to be a vocalist in a metal band, she didn't just kind of like palm me off or laugh. She was like, okay, well then we need to start, making this happen. And she just took me seriously from day one. And it was so important. And my grandparents as well, because they helped raise me. My grandpa, bless him, he, even to this day, it's so funny because we filmed a music video at his house last week. And he's like, this music, Meg, is so angry and aggressive. I don't know what people see. And I was like, I know, Gramps, I know. And he was like, but you are the best at it.
So... Yes. What support that is, though. Even because, and you're totally right. Like, my parents growing up, they didn't listen to metal, and I kind of found my own. And I'm like, I like this. And everyone else, why? Because it speaks to me. That's why.
Yeah.
And it's just so great that you had a support system that actually cared about that, because you're right. Most people didn't. And it's sad, because if that's something that you're going to live day in and day out with, and you feel it, and that's your passion, go for it.
Yeah. 100%.
Support each other in that. So then, from there, kind of, how did that spark into the whole band itself?
So it's been a long process.
Right.
Lots of terrible, teenage bands and lineups and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it kind of, I went to a school for kids who had been bullied. And I was the quietest, most insecure, depressed little kid, unfortunately. And it was at this school where I discovered Bring Me the Horizon and Slipknot and stuff like that. And I was like, right, I'm going to start a band. And I found kids in this school who also liked the music, and we started a terrible band. And throughout the years gigging, I just like met more kids. And eventually it became like, right, I found my people, and let's do this properly. Let's take this really seriously.
I love that. It's funny you say that, because you're going to realize this about me. I go off on a tangent when you say something, because it's so important, and it's so like-minded with me, because like my wife, she doesn't like this kind of music at all. So but when you say find your people, that's exactly it, because the metal community themselves are so supportive, and I don't think people see that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky because there are some incredibly supportive parts of it, but there still is a long way to go in other parts. But when you do find your people, they're like your ride or die. Like the men that I have in Vexed, they are my best friends. And like, ultimately, we just have that friendship to start with. That's the most important thing. And we care about each other so much that our friendship actually comes before anything to do with band. Like, if one of us isn't feeling good, we're like, it's okay, we're not doing it. We don't do it. We say no to it. And I think that's the most important thing with any aspect in life, is you've got to find the people that you want to do stuff with.
That's awesome. And again, I'm not in a band. I don't know those things, but it's really, it's nice to hear that, because it's like, you guys look out for the number ones first. Obviously you have people that love you, you have the people that, support you, but you got to look out for number one, always,
Yeah,
always. And
definitely.
that's kind of a good segue too, because, you had said that you were kind of growing up in a school that was primarily for bullied children. Can you talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit more?
Yeah. So the school itself, I mean, I hated it at the time. I was a terrible student.
Nobody likes school, but
No,
yeah.
I was definitely not interested in learning anything. But it was amazing. It was for kids who either had severe illnesses and were in and out of hospital and couldn't go to mainstream school,
Sure.
or it was for kids who were bullied and just terrified of going into school. So when I was 10 years old, I was raised by my mum, my grandpa, and at the time my mum had an identical twin because I didn't know my dad growing up, never met him.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately she died. And when she died, it was like my whole world just fell apart. And I was only 10, and it was like, right, your second mum's died, now you've got to go to big school. And I couldn't make any friends, I couldn't talk to anyone. I was so depressed, I was so miserable. And going to that school, like I said at the time, I hated it, but by the end of it, I'd learned so many life lessons, and it sculpted me into the person I am now. Made me, I wasn't alone anymore. I was with the outcasts, so to speak.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just a place where I was accepted, for who I was. And I was very, very lucky to be able to have that.
That's first and foremost. That's so horrible to hear about your mother's twin. I honestly can't even imagine going through that at 10 years old, mind you. Like
Yeah.
that in itself has got to have caused just so much heartache. But like you had said before, taking that anger, pain, anything, and then bringing it back into something that's so positive has to have been something that was not easy by any means, but so amazing in the sense of look where you are because of all of those things that fueled you to the day.
Yeah. And that's the way I try and look at it. Everybody's going to have their days where you just need to sit and cry. You just
Yeah.
need to, you just need to sit in your bed and eat Doritos and chocolate and watch terrible TV and cry. We
Right.
all have days like that. But yeah, when you get a hold of yourself and, you take a look at the bigger picture, I am so grateful for, all those experiences, because it has molded me to where I am now. And it's put me in a place where I have been given an opportunity to help those who might be going through the same thing. And if I can do that, then, my life is good.
That's so important too. Coming from somebody in a role where they have a lot of people that look up to them, hearing that, hey, it's okay to not be okay. I mean, you can have those days. Everybody does, even though people don't want to talk about it. And that's the sad thing. But it's people special like you that say, you know what, fuck that. We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna say it's okay. And I don't think there's a lot of people that really want to take on that role because it's still so shaded. You don't want
Isn't it mad?
It's weird. I don't understand. And like prior to doing all of this job, I was a police officer for 12 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
and I basically left because my mental health was horrible. I was like, I'm a wreck, and then like my family life was a wreck. And I was just like, I need to make this right choice. And now I'm so open about that, saying like, look, I went through these struggles. And because of being vulnerable, because of being open, that has opened the doors to so many other people doing the same. And I think that's such an important message that you convey in that sense of just saying, like, look, yes, I can be this way and I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And I think, you'll know better than anybody, like being in that position where you deny your feelings of being, in a really terrible place for so long, that it actually does more damage. And when you were like, actually, no, let's stop, let's, quit the force and, focus on my mental health, for example, everything becomes clear. And the most important thing in life, I know it sounds cliche, but it is so true. Your mental health is the most important thing because, without a stable brain, nothing is going to be enjoyable. Nothing at all. You could be the most successful, attractive, rich person on the planet, but if you are not happy inside, you're not going to enjoy any of it.
And we've seen that with people
Yeah.
like prominent figures that have died by
Mm,
suicide, but that
yeah.
have come out about saying like, look, mental health is a serious thing and it's affected me,
Hmm.
and people just want to keep it in the dark, and I hate that.
Yeah.
And it's I get the reasons why people will, but that's just it's such a I don't want to say it's an ignorant thought to say I can't be open about this, but you
Mm,
can be, and it's
yeah.
so important. And that's why I think music has always been kind of a great catalyst to helping people kind of find that
Mm,
courage to talk about those things. And
definitely.
with the kind of music that you do, and I'll even say being a female in this kind of realm, how
Yeah.
hard is that to balance?
Um, I try not to think about that too much. Sometimes, like I said before, I have my days where I'm just like so filled with stress and anxiety because you do still get the same crap thrown at you for being a woman. But you just have to learn to kind of grow a thick skin and become resilient. And something that I've accepted since doing this is that when people are being negative towards you, you don't actually have to take that on. All it's actually doing is exposing them for their issues, for example, with women, or their issues with race, or their issues with sexuality. It's their problem. It has nothing to do with me. And it took me a long time to accept that, but the boys actually really helped me come to terms with that. And that again is another really liberating thing. But you're right, it's a lot of balance. But again, I surround myself with very lovely people, and that's the most important thing, I think.
I love that you say like the boys, because that's the best thing. I just from you saying stuff like that and you looking so uplifting when you say that, they have to be like the best support for you. I have
Oh
to
my god, they
imagine that
are.
beyond your parents
Yeah.
or beyond your family rather. I
Yeah.
just I think that's so wonderful. And I honestly I it's weird because when you start talking to somebody, you can kind of gauge right away if they're like, are they really feeling that? Do they really feel kind of like
Mm,
about this time? And you do. You feel like you're
thank
like
you.
you do. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad because I know that you have a majority of your fan base over in the UK, if I'm
Hmm.
correct.
Yeah.
But now you're kind of making your way into America.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
So cool. So cool. Yeah.
So like how has that transition been? Like are you still in the UK currently, or are you like in the United States at this point?
Still in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. So unfortunately, there's nothing that we can't get out to you guys yet. But as soon as we can, I will be on that plane and I will be there. But it's very weird because obviously in the UK with the lockdowns and stuff, I've had to experience everything just from my four walls in my bedroom. So
Yeah.
I have connected with more people during a lockdown and a quarantine all over the world than I have in my whole entire life.
Right.
And it's yeah, it's the weirdest thing, but it's so cool. It's so nice.
I That's the thing too, because when I started this podcast, like right
Yeah.
at the start of the pandemic, and then
Oh,
all of a sudden it
really?
was like, man, I have met more people all over the world than
Yeah.
I've met in like 34 years of living. Like this is insane, you know? I
That's
just
so cool.
I love that though, because again, it just broadens your horizons and you're finding that silver lining in a really crummy
Yes.
situation.
Yeah.
And I think just having that general positivity that you bring and just saying to people like, look, there is good in it. And you used a word before that I love, and it was resilient, because I think
Mm.
a lot of people don't understand that necessarily. It's not just bouncing back, it's actually thriving and being able to flourish in a really shitty situation. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, and
absolutely.
I, and I think as well, like another thing that made me really want to do this is that you're, I assume, a man and identify as a man. And that's so incredible because, especially in the metal community, men don't want to talk about this kind of stuff.
No.
And it's like the ultimate macho masculine circle. And, the boys and I, the most important thing we do once or twice a week is we check in with each other. How are you guys? How are you feeling? How are you really feeling?
Right.
We talk about my week's been a bit crap. I'm feeling a bit depressed or down. And then we talk through it. And the boys are so open about their feelings. And it's helped us get through the pandemic and helped us come close together. So when I saw that it was a guy doing this, I was like, yes, finally, we need more men like you. We do.
Thank you very much. You're gonna make me blush. Stop that. But I do appreciate that, and it was not easy. Like I said, I mean, as far as coming from a realm where you had to basically be emotionless to coming on here and saying, oh yeah, I cry a lot because I can't manage some days. Like I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but I think I was just talking about my kids and stuff. Like, oh man, my wife works days, I work afternoons. Of course, I'm a single dad in the morning, and I'm struggling sometimes. So of course, you're right, and I'm getting off topic, of course, but
no.
Again, like we need people in prominent roles and non-prominent roles to say, like, look, I'm a man. Yeah, it sucks. It's hard. It's okay to not be okay. I keep saying that because it's the truth. And
it's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love hearing about groups or bands or even just a person saying, look, I have a support system. We check in on each other, because there's not enough of that anymore. And I can just tell by the fact of you saying that's gotta be easy for them to say, like, wow, I can be more open because I have people checking in on me and being okay with that. So, so like kind of growing up, and you were talking about being kind of like in a depressed state. Were there other things beyond music that ever helped you?
So I grew up in, like I said, an estate, but the estate is, it was a mile down the road from my grandparents' house, who still own a farm. And so I would go to my grandparents' house every single day, and it was my escapism. It was my complete different world that I'd step into. And it was animals, and just being around wildlife and stuff that really helped me as well.
I love hearing that, because people tell me that a lot, like the animals and farm and stuff. And we had an equine assisted therapist, which is like,
wow.
I call it like a horse therapist. That sounds so stupid, but like how powerful animals can sense your emotions. And I think that's so good. And I encourage anybody, go check it out, because it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So what was like your go-to animal?
Horses.
Oh, okay. Of course. That's so good.
Like I said before, I didn't have any friends. So I would go to the farm, and my grandpa, bless him, he'd buy us like these really, really cheap ponies. Like, it wasn't rich by any means, but like they were just the best little rascals ever. And I would just spend hours grooming them and riding them and talking to them. And, we've always been surrounded by dogs. And I mean, I still live in the country now, and I've got ducks and I've got chickens, and they're just like, when you're having a crap day, when you come home to those little faces who just adore you no matter what, it's such a lovely feeling. Do you have any pets?
I do. I have a golden doodle. He's like 4, almost 5 years old, and he is the coolest little mutt ever. I love that dog. I don't know. Some days he drives me crazy because he's hyper all the time. But
I was going to say, I bet he's hyper
all the time. But what's even better is, so we're based in Wisconsin. But the point to my story is, if I go out in my backyard, I can look, and there's this massive farm field, and we have cows that are like right behind our house. And my kids are always like, I'm like, hey, where are the cows at? And they're like, I don't know, let's go look. And I love it. So you're right. I think that that's such a good thing to have growing up. And I completely agree with that. Yeah. So I don't really try to always focus on like mental health or suicide on my podcasts or anything like that, because I mean, yes, that is the basis of it, but it's real people with real stories. And that's why I like learning about other things that help you cope throughout those problems and those challenges. Yeah. Obviously, music was probably number one. But would you mind kind of elaborating on how important having your grandparents and your mom were kind of growing up and actually being supportive of a kind of career path that you chose?
Yeah. I literally owe them everything, absolutely everything, because like I mentioned before, I don't know my father. Unfortunately, he didn't want anything to do with me. And so I was just, the only identity that I had was my mum. My mum is adopted, so my whole family that I know are not blood family, put it that way.
Sure.
They are my family. They're my,
Right.
I consider them everything, like I said. But if we're going to get biological, they're not my
Sure.
blood family. And so the only sort of form of identity I had growing up was my mum. And so I based all my trust, all my faith, everything in her. And then when my auntie passed away, who looked identical to my mum, so it was incredibly freaky when she did die.
Yeah.
It was, messed up time. My grandpa, he'd always been my number two, but he became my number one as well. And my mum obviously went into a really, really dark place and didn't cope at all, as to be expected.
Right.
And my grandpa kind of took over, and he raised me with my mum for a long time. He still does.
Well, of course,
still,
yeah.
he's still the person I go to about anything. And he was the most, I would say, important role, in the sense that he taught me that it doesn't matter what you want, where you've come from, you can achieve it if you put your mind to it. And he's always believed in me, even though he thinks the music is ridiculous. He's always believed in me. He's always told me that if I want something, I can do it. And it's so important having that person believe in you, because I honestly don't know where I would be if I didn't have them. I don't think I'd still be here if I didn't have my grandpa.
I completely understand that sentiment. I do, because if it wasn't for a very select few people at certain times in my life, I would have been in that same boat. And I think that's very important to understand, to say, if you don't have somebody like that, it's not like the worst thing. You can find people that are genuinely caring. And I always tell people, like, so I'm not a therapist by any means. Like I said, no. I have an associate's degree in criminal justice, but a master's in life experience. So that's about the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
But I tell people, the best thing you could do to anybody that's ever in a position where they're needing help or anything is just be kind and listen.
Yes.
You don't have to fix the problem. Just listen.
No. And I think that's it. I mean, I think a lot of people get overwhelmed when they're presented with somebody who says, I'm depressed, or I'm not coping, or I feel suicidal. Yes. People freak out and they're like, well, I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? I can't save this person. It's like, you don't need to do anything. You just have to listen. That's all it is. And it's as simple as that.
We do like trainings on the signs and symptoms of suicide, and like kind of what to look for, like those red flags. And there's always the question of, like, what do I do if somebody says that? And I tell them, the first thing you do is feel that, oh my God moment. Yes. It's a big moment. You got it. It is. But they're actively there with you, or you're talking with them. They're just looking. They're not doing anything. And it's very important that people understand that. So I guess leading back to everything, I'm glad that you had your grandpa in your life for that, because that's one of those things that I love hearing, that he's still actively involved in your life, even though he doesn't the music or whatever, but that's okay.
I know he's a G. He really is. I mean, like, he wants our merch, and he'll wear like one of our t-shirts to his fishing club, and like, he's surrounded by people in tweed jackets and like, and really, really posh, and he'll turn up in a Vexed t-shirt.
I love that.
He'll be like, oh, do you like heavy metal? Then you should check out this band. I don't like it, but my granddaughter's very good.
but that just shows how proud he is too. Like, that's such an amazing thing. I love hearing it. I think I love hearing that more, because this is a community that I know how close they are, and how that saved me. And I've had supportive people in that realm as well. So having that and hearing that from somebody that doesn't like them, or doesn't really like the music, I should say, that's an important thing. It really
is. Yeah. And it goes to show, like, in any aspect of life, whether it's music or jobs or anything, you don't actually have to like anything anybody does. you just don't need to be an asshole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Like you said it
there's-
before. I mean, that's exactly right. You don't have to
you
like
can
anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of like career choices and things that my friends or family do I'm not necessarily a fan of, but I'm a die-hard fan for them when they need it. You know, I'll support them till the end and hype them up forever, even if it's not something I particularly like. You know, you just it's the difference between knowing when to, I don't know, say the right thing, do the right thing, and keeping your mouth shut. You know,
Absolutely.
you don't have to have an opinion on everything when it's
Absolutely.
negative. Yeah.
I agree. This world needs more people like that, because I mean, obviously
Oh
we
god, yeah.
focus on a really negative spots, but the world needs more caring people like that just shut your mouth and just listen. That's
Yeah.
all it is. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could fix the world's problems in like a conversation like this, but you know, it is what it is.
It's true. It's
What
true.
was like your biggest failure growing up, and how did you overcome it?
Biggest failure. I unfortunately fell a down a road where I cared too much about what people thought of me physically. And growing up, unfortunately, there was quite a bit of abuse in the family home. My mum dated a couple of men who were incredibly abusive, and that kind of turned into self-loathing, and I developed anorexia, and I spent years trying to be this perfect physical being, with setting myself standards that were completely unachievable. And I went down this road where I was completely and utterly consumed by this perfectionist image of what I should be, because of how other people had told me, well, you're not good enough, you'll never achieve anything, you're ugly, blah blah blah. And yeah, it kind of consumed my whole world for a very, very long time. The way I overcame it was through music, meeting people who also had the same problems, talking to them about it, understanding I wasn't alone, and then speaking to people I trust in my immediate circle. So I remember talking to my mum and saying, you know, I don't want to live anymore. I hate the way I look. I can't. And she was like, if you could go eat anything right now, what would it be? And I was like, I want a Domino's pizza and Krispy Kreme donuts. And she was like, get in the car. And I was like, I no. And she was like, get in the car. We got in the car and she got me a large Domino's pizza and Krispy Kremes. And she was like, you're having a night off from this pain.
Yeah.
Eat the freaking pizza and eat the Krispy Kremes. And it just went. I mean, like, this switch in my brain. I ate this Domino's pizza and these Krispy Kremes, and it was like the best moment in my life up at that point, because I was just like, yeah, fuck you, anorexia.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to eat this pizza and I'm just going to enjoy life. Why am I putting these restrictions on myself because of what other people think I should be like? And obviously it was a long journey, and I had to kind of it took longer than just that one night to get through it, but it was that moment of, actually, I'm going to eat the goddamn pizza.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And
wow. I'm so sorry you had to go through something like that, because you're right. How people can affect an image of yourself and how that can just tear you down. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm glad that, you know, you had that pizza then.
I had the pizza, yes. And I mean, I had Domino's pizza the other night as well. It's still well and truly a staple in my diet.
Oh my god. Well, good.
Yeah.
I love that. And like I said, I mean, I know we'll kind of wrap up here, because I know you're short on time as well. But I have to say, just hearing people and talking to people that are so like-minded in the sense of wanting to make the world a better place and be there and say, like, look, yes, there are external struggles. Excuse me. There are external struggles, but there's also the internal ones that people don't talk about. And the fact of the matter is, you're one of those people that will play a prominent role in helping people feel okay about themselves, and being open like this and talking about those things that you've gone through and saying, you know what, it hurt at the time. Here's how I got through it, and look where I am because of that. You're
Yeah.
going to save a lot of people's lives, and you're going to help so many people in your lifetime. So thank you for that, first and foremost.
No, thank you.
Of course, of course. So I always want to say, I know obviously with the pandemic, we're not touring, you're not doing anything at the moment.
No.
However, you do have something coming out in like, I think, what, 10 days or something like that?
I think it is, 10 or 11 days.
So what do you got coming up?
So we've got our debut album, Culling Culture. It's coming out on the 21st of May via Napalm Records, and we are incredibly proud and excited for everybody to hear it. Can't wait.
Like I said, I listened to a little bit. I saw, because I have like my little Amazon music player, and I typed it in and I got 3 songs. Perfect. All right. And I'm like, I love each one of them. Let's keep going. Let's give it up. So yes, like I said, I cannot wait for that. So, and actually, let me ask you, what was the inspiration for the name of it?
So because like the whole cancel culture thing kind of took off, and each track is about individual people that we've cut out of our lives. We also, sorry, that's my granddad trying to call me. Hang
up, just answer.
So because of the whole cancel culture, and in like our group chat, whenever we are like talking about people that it's like we need to get rid of, like they're toxic, get rid of them, we say like cull them off. Not literally, just metaphorically, just throwing it out there.
Right. Yeah, right.
And because each track was about all these individuals, it kind of made sense to be like, instead of focusing on everything that's going on in areas that you can't control, look at your inner circle and cancel those people that bring you nothing but negativity and toxicity. Focus on the people that are immediately around you. And if they don't bring you anything but pain, cull them off. And that was how Culling Culture became the name.
What a wonderful way to like kind of circle back in this whole conversation and say like, that's exactly it. Like, I love that. I'm so glad I asked you, because I was thinking, I'm like, I like that name. I wonder how they came up with it. And I didn't realize that was like, each track was about somebody specific. Obviously, you probably wouldn't name them by name, but you know. So.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. So, I will definitely be listening first and foremost. So thank you for that. How can people get in touch with you? How do they find out more about Vexed and your bandmates?
So you can go to vexed.com and literally find all the links necessary on there. But we're in all the usual places: Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, Facebook. We're everywhere.
Wherever you are. Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely, for anybody that's listening, I'll have all of that in the show notes below. And then I do ask one specific question. It's funny. I say this every time. Like, I don't like to do an interview style. I asked way many questions this time, so that was weird. But I do ask this one, and I think this is the most important one. So what's your advice for anyone that's ever been in your situation or has resonated with something that you said today?
Remember that other people's opinions do not mean anything. They are not fact. They are just opinions. And you could be the most ripest, juiciest peach in the whole of the fruit bowl, and there's still going to be someone out there who doesn't like peaches. So the most important thing is, the only opinion that matters is the one you have of yourself. And if you can look in the mirror and you're happy with it, fuck what anybody else thinks. If you're not, ask yourself why, and then do something to change it, but don't beat yourself up about it.
I love that. I love that. What an amazing message. And I've never heard that metaphor, but I like it a lot. So, again, Megan, thank you so much for coming on today. And again, people check out her website. I'll have it again in the show notes below, and check out their music, May 21st, Culling Culture. So Megan, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Megan, thank you again for taking the time to come on the podcast. I know you're super busy with your new album, Culling Culture, coming out May 21st. Check it out. I got the link below to Amazon Music. Definitely take a listen, support them. Check out their socials, Facebook pages, and check out their website, vexed.com. Can't wait till you get to the States. like I said, make a special trip to Wisconsin. That would be great. So, did you like today's podcast? If you did, like, share, subscribe, do anything you do on the platform that you listen to, because it just keeps getting the message out there that we're trying to share. It's positivity. It's making sure that people are here for tomorrow. And the stories that we share and the inspiration that people give to others is so valuable. And we want to make sure we can do what we can. So if it's as simple as hitting that like, hitting that subscribe, hitting that follow button, please do that, because it does help it out. Visit us on our social pages. You can visit us on our website, www.centerforsuicideawareness.org. From there, you can get all of our social pages: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Twitch, centerforsuicideawareness.com. We want to connect with you. We want to make sure you're up to date with all of the new exciting stuff we have coming out. So again, check us out. We partnered with a really cool network called the Mental Health News Radio Network. We're kind of in a collection of different sort of mental health podcasts, different uplifting podcasts, different podcasts that talk about real stuff. And it's really cool because they've directed a lot of guests towards us, and we've done the same. And they're a really great resource. They're very inclusive and want to kind of expand your horizons when it comes to different things you listen to. So check them out. They're linked below, mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, anything about the podcast, please email me, Aaron, Aaron, at centerforsuicideawareness.org. I want to hear what you got. I want to hear your feedback. I want to see if you have ideas for improvements, for guests, for anything. Please, I'm open. I'm here. I'm real. That's what I do. So please email me, Aaron, at centerforsuicideawareness.org. One of the really cool things kind of that we've had from the beginning, and I talk about this every week, but is, the need for support in a really rough time. And we still have this pandemic going on. And we're going to have a lot of after effects from the pandemic because we've had a lot of lost time, and it's hard. And for people to really understand that and deal with it, it takes a lot. And we need that support from others. But that's why we decided to create a text-based emotional support service called the Hopeline. All you would have to do is text Hopeline to 741-741 if you're in the United States. Unfortunately, we are not international yet. However, we are in the process to get there. So bear with us. But if you are in the United States, you can text Hopeline to 741-741, and you'll be connected to one of our trained counselors free of charge to talk about any issue you're facing. If it's a crisis to you, it's important. If it's a breakup, if it's money issues, if it's just general anxiety, that's okay. That's why it's here. Sometimes people just need that ear, like we talked about. Just listen to people. And that's why we did it, because sometimes people don't have that person they can call up or text really late at night. That's why this is 24/7. You can text them anytime. So again, all you have to do is text Hopeline to 741-741. It's just been a crazy couple weeks here at the center. It's one of those things that I'm excited for what's to come. It's kind of in this gray period where we're just in the waiting game, and I can't wait because we have so many great things, and I'm so lucky to be doing this. And it's just an amazing feeling that I have people from all over the world listening and spreading that same message that I sent out to do with the first one, is just be kind to one another. Be kind. You are loved and you are important. And remember, you are not alone. Take care, everybody. Bye.